Welcome to the deep dive. We've got quite a story to unpack today. Really compelling one, actually. It's about the rapid rise of France in the global AI arena. Now, by 2025, they haven't just become a participant. They're arguably the leading hub for generative AI in all of Europe.
Yeah, it's a remarkable shift. And just look at the numbers. Over 1,000 AI startups, calling France home, an impressive third position in Stanford's Global AI Vibrancy Index. And then there's this huge 109 billion investment package they've put together to fuel this growth.
So in this deep dive, we're going to really try to dissect what's behind all this, right? And our primary source for this is the University 365 report, France's AI Landscape in March 2025, which is, as you know, very thorough.
Absolutely. It's going to be like your cheat sheet to quickly get a grasp of all the important developments, the strategic moves, and the direction that's pushed France to this leading position in the AI revolution.
Right, exactly. We'll start by tracing those initial steps in AI research in France. How did it all begin? And then we'll move through those three phases of their national strategy, the strategy that really put them on the map.
And of course, we'll look at where France stands today, both in the realm of, let's say, traditional AI, and then in this very exciting field of generative AI. We can't ignore the government policies and the massive investments. They've played a huge part in this story.
Absolutely. We also want to shine a light on the major research institutions there and some of those breakthroughs coming out of France. And then we'll see how AI is actually being integrated across different sectors in their economy, everything from healthcare to agriculture and even consider the wider impact of AI on French society and the economy.
And ultimately, where does France stand on that global stage? What are the strengths they bring to the table, but also what are some of those challenges they still need to overcome?
So let's rewind the clock, shall we? Back to the beginnings of AI in France, those early foundations from the 1970s to the late 2010s. Take us there.
Okay, so the story really starts to take shape in the 70s with Professor Jacques Petra. You could say he was a pioneer. He really introduced the core concepts of artificial intelligence to the French academic world. Now, around that same time, you had a team over in Marseille, led by Alain Kolmerauer. They achieved a pretty significant breakthrough early on, the invention of Prolog.
Prologue.
Yeah, and if you remember, Prolog is a programming language, and it turned out to be particularly good for tasks like, natural language processing.
Right, right. Getting computers to understand and work with our human language. So even then, there was this focus on AI interacting with us in a way. I mean, was that a particularly French thing at the time?
Yeah. Well, natural language processing was definitely a hot topic worldwide, but I think Kalmarauer's work on Prolog had a unique flavor, you could say, and became quite influential. And then following on from this, we saw the first real academic AI research teams starting to form. Institutions like Lecoria, LRI Orsay, UTC Compiègne, IRIT Toulouse, and LRIM Montpellier, they all became kind of incubators for AI talent and early innovation.
They were the breeding grounds. So then, if we fast forward to the 80s, AI seems to shift at least a little from that pure academic exploration to something more practical.
Right. So in 1981, Group Bull, which is a big French computer manufacturer, they set up a research center dedicated to AI. And their work, it focused on making databases accessible through natural language. Imagine that, being able to just ask a database a question in plain English instead of using all that complicated code.
That's pretty amazing.
It was a big deal. They also delved into object programming and developed expert systems, those early AIs designed to kind of mimic human decision making, but in very specific fields like medical diagnosis or giving financial advice.
So it's not just academics playing around anymore. They're realizing, hey, this could be useful in the business world. And it wasn't just Bull working on this, right?
Not at all. And in '84, a really big milestone was reached. They set up the first European Computer Industry Research Center, the ECRC. And this was a joint effort between Dole ICL from the UK and Siemens from Germany.
Wow.
And this center, dedicated to constraint programming and even designing computers specifically for running Prolog.
A real pan-European effort there on something really cutting edge. It speaks to the vision they had even back then. It sounds like this whole AI thing started to infiltrate different industries within France, too, though.
It did. So throughout the '80s, you had all these big companies, French and international companies, but operating in France, names like Airspatiale, Dassault, IBM, Thomson, and even France Telecom. They all began to form their own little AI units.
Their own internal teams?
Exactly. And they saw the potential. They realized this tech could revolutionize their industries, whether it was aerospace design, defense systems, or telecommunications. It was pretty exciting.
It really was. And so it sounds like It was a real community starting to build around AI in France.
Oh, absolutely. And the Avignon Conference series, which ran from 85 to 94, that played a huge role in bringing everyone together. It was the first national event that specifically aimed to connect those researchers, the ones working on the science behind AI, with the folks in industry who were really eager to put it into practice.
Yeah, to solve real problems.
Exactly. And that kind of interaction, that sharing of ideas between academia and industry, I mean, that's crucial to turning research into, real world impact.
It is. So France had these foundations, these early seeds of innovation. But the report says that, progress was, well, it was relatively modest up until the late 2010s. What really flipped the switch? What happened?
That's when President Emmanuel Macron stepped in 2018. And you would say that was the real turning point. And that's what ignited France's its journey to becoming the AI powerhouse it is today.
It's interesting. It wasn't just like a sudden boom, was it?
No, no, not at all. It was very deliberate, very meticulously planned. They laid out this three-phase national strategy to build a whole AI ecosystem from the ground up.
And the first phase, which ran from 2018 to 2022, was all about building that research foundation, right?
Exactly, laying the groundwork. They poured 1.5 billion euro into it. And a key part of this was setting up those four interdisciplinary institutes for artificial intelligence, the three IAs. And these weren't just your regular research centers. They were designed to bring together experts from all sorts of fields, not just computer science, but also ethics, law, medicine, social sciences.
A more holistic approach.
Exactly. It was about creating a kind of cross-disciplinary approach to AI development. It was about addressing all those complex issues that come with it.
Making sure they weren't just focused on the tech, but also the ethics of it all, the impact on society. And it wasn't just about building new institutions, was it? There was also this huge focus on giving researchers the tools they needed.
Oh, absolutely. This phase saw the construction of the Jean Zay supercomputer, which quickly became kind of the heart of France's national AI infrastructure. I mean, we're talking about giving them the computational power to do some really advanced research in things like machine learning and other AI areas.
Mm-hmm.
They also created the Health Data Hub at this time, recognizing the potential of AI to revolutionize healthcare.
Using AI to analyze huge amounts of health data, but obviously doing it responsibly, protecting privacy, all that.
Of course, of course. But the impact on people on training the next generation of AI experts, that was key too. They funded 180 research chairs, 300 doctoral programs directly. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And this is the big one. Over 40,000 students were being trained in AI every year. It was a huge investment in future.
So phase one, it was really about laying that foundation. What about phase two, running from 2022 to 2025? What did they prioritize there?
Phase two was about taking all that research, those breakthroughs from phase one, and turning them into something practical, something that could benefit the economy.
Okay.
So they invested another 1 billion euro, this time through the France 2030 plan. And the idea was to use AI as this engine for transforming production and driving innovation across the French economy.
And what specific initiatives were they putting in place during this second phase to make that happen, to accelerate that innovation?
Well, they established these 9 training hubs for AI excellence, AI clusters they called them, strategically placed around the country. And these clusters were more than just training centers. They were designed to bring together universities, research labs, and businesses, creating these regional hubs for AI innovation. The Jean Zay supercomputer also got its first major expansion during this phase, to keep up with the growing demands of all that research and development.
And the focus on training, on building that pool of AI talent, that continued, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. They more than doubled the number of students trained in AI annually from 40,000 to a whopping 100,000.
Wow.
And to further fuel this growth, they pumped 400 million euro directly into public and private research and development in AI. This was crucial for bridging the gap between promising research and actual market-ready solutions.
Right. So it's one thing to have an idea, to have the research. It's another thing entirely to turn that into a product or service that someone can actually use.
Exactly.
So now we come to the present, phase three, which kicked off just this year, 2025. What are the big aims, the overarching goals for this phase of the national AI strategy?
This phase is all about deployment, taking AI and weaving it into the fabric of French society. It's about embedding AI into essential infrastructure, into businesses of all shapes and sizes, and into public services.
Making AI a real part of daily life.
Exactly, realizing its full potential for the benefit of everyone.
So what are we seeing happening on the ground? What initiatives really stand out in this third phase?
One very interesting thing they're doing is setting up these AI cafes. And the idea here is to spark a national conversation, a debate about AI and what it means for society. They're recognizing that for AI to be truly successful, people need to understand it, even if just on a basic level.
It's about education and having these open forums for people to discuss and maybe even debate the impact of AI.
Exactly. And of course, as AI becomes more widespread, you have to make sure it's being developed responsibly and deployed securely. That's where the National Institute for AI Evaluation and Security comes in, ANISA.
Anesia. And this was launched just this year in January 2025.
That's right. And they have three key roles, really. First, they analyze the potential risks to national security that might pop up from the increasing use of AI. This technology is powerful. It has to be monitored.
Hmm.
Second, Anesia supports the implementation of AI regulations, making sure everyone plays by the rules and that innovation is happening responsibly. And third, they rigorously evaluate AI models themselves, not just their performance, but also, and this is crucial, their operational safety. Are they reliable? Are they going to do what they're supposed to do without any nasty surprises?
So it's about promoting the use of AI while managing the risks.
Exactly. It's a balancing act.
And beyond these specific initiatives, what's the general feeling, the direction of this third phase?
It's all about really accelerating that integration of AI into businesses every size and into various public services. But at the same time, they're not slower down on the research front. They're still pushing those boundaries of AR, and they're still very focused on training and upskilling AI professionals to meet those ever-changing demands of this field. It's about maintaining that momentum, staying at the forefront of the global AI revolution.
Okay, so we've looked at the roadmap, so to speak. Now let's look at the current state of AI in France as of 2025. And the University 365 report really lays this out in detail, distinguishing between classical AI and the more recent advancements in generative AI. Let's start with that classical AI infrastructure and the ongoing research.
Okay, so when it comes to classical AI infrastructure, the Zhangzhou supercomputer is still the big player. It's gone through its fourth expansion since it was built back in 2019, and they've just injected another 40 million euros for this latest upgrade.
And what does that upgrade entail?
Well, a big part of it is adding a new NVIDIA Hopper partition. This is a significant leap in computing power, specifically geared toward training those really complex AI models. And this continued investment, it really shows how dedicated France is to providing its researchers with top-notch computing power.
Absolutely. And when you see that Jean Zay supported over 1,000 different AI research projects in 2023 alone, you realize the scale of what's happening there.
It's pretty amazing. And those projects, they cover everything from fundamental theoretical research to very applied projects happening in both universities and industrial research departments. And then, of course, there are those 9 AI clusters spread across France. They've quickly become these centers of excellence. They have a combined budget of 360 million euro.
Wow.
Yeah. And their mission is multifaceted. They're training people in AI, both initially and ongoing training. They're fostering cutting-edge research. And perhaps most importantly, they're forging strong connections between what's happening in universities and what businesses actually need.
Ensuring that the research and the training that goes with it are aligned with the real world, with the actual demands of the industry.
Exactly. And they've got this goal to train 100,000 people in AI by 2030 through these clusters. That includes a lot of continuing education for professionals already out there working.
Right. Upskilling the existing workforce. So it's not just about fresh graduates coming into the field. It's about making sure everyone has a chance to adapt to this new AI-powered landscape.
Exactly. And that emphasis on lifelong learning, it's absolutely crucial in this rapidly evolving AI landscape. Now, if we switch gears to the area that has really pushed France into the limelight, generative AI, the University 365 report says, without hesitation, that France is the top dog in Europe for generative AI in 2025. That's a big statement. What's backing that up?
Yeah.
Well, a few things. France has a very strong, very influential open source ecosystem for generative AI. Projects like Mistral AI, Hugging Face, Probol, and Scikit-learn, they've all gotten global recognition.
Hmm.
These are some of the world's leading open source libraries and platforms for AI algorithms, and they play a big part in making AI more accessible and pushing the technology forward.
And Mistral AI, that seems to be the superstar, the one everyone is talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, often referred to as France's AI crown jewel. What makes it so special?
Well, they've got a valuation of 6 billion euro. That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's become a symbol of how ambitious France is, how quickly they're catching up in the generative AI race. And what they're doing, developing these high-performance, optimized, and very often open source, large language models that's driving innovation, not just in France, but globally. And they just announced they're going to establish Europe's largest AI cluster in Essone.
Yeah.
That's huge. They need access to that immense computational power if they want to train those increasingly complex models and stay ahead of the game.
So it's a big investment in the infrastructure and the hardware you need to even run these huge generative AI models.
Absolutely. And this new cluster, it'll be equipped with the latest generation of those specialized chips. It's not only going to support Mistral's own research and development, but it's going to boost France's overall technological independence, especially in this critical area.
It's about not having to rely on other countries for the tools you need to do this kind of cutting-edge work. Now, aside from Mistral, what other French companies are making waves in the generative AI space?
There are quite a few, actually. H Company, for one, is focusing on those advanced large language models, really pushing the limits of what these models can do, understand, generate, how they can be applied. And then you have Bioptimus. They're doing something really interesting. They're building foundational AI models specifically for biotech.
Okay,
Imagine that, trying to simulate those complex biological systems. The potential there for drug discovery and for understanding diseases is huge.
it is.
And then there's Poolside. They're working on generative AI to help software developers, to write better code, to find and fix bugs faster. The potential there is massive.
Yeah, increasing productivity, making those software development workflows more efficient.
Exactly. And finally, there's Adaptive ML. They provide the tools, the platforms that companies need to actually deploy these generative AI models to fine-tune them for their specific needs.
It's one thing to have the model. It's another thing to actually put it to work in a real business setting. So it sounds like France isn't just relying on one or two big players. They're building a whole diverse ecosystem with both that fundamental research happening and all these practical applications for specific industries.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about that money, those massive investments that we mentioned at the beginning. That's what underpins all of this, right?
You can't overstate the role of investments, both from the government and the private sector. They've been crucial to France's success in AI. That 109 billion investment package announced at the AI Action Summit in Paris back in February, that speaks volumes about their commitment to this.
It's a huge amount of money. Where's all that cash coming from?
Well, a big chunk, 50 billion euro, that's coming from the UAE. They're putting it towards building data center campuses in France, including a massive 1 gigawatt data center. This kind of foreign investment, it really shows how attractive France has become as a place to build and run these large-scale AI operations.
It's almost like a vote of confidence, isn't it?
It is, and Canada's playing a big part too. Brookfield, which is a Canadian asset manager, they're putting in a hefty 20 euro to develop those essential AI infrastructure projects.
So it's not just France betting on itself, it's other countries recognizing the potential here. And domestically, BP France, the French public investment bank, they're throwing their weight behind AI as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They've committed 10 billion euro to be invested directly into promising French AI companies, and also incidentally through these specialized venture capital funds focused on AI, and that commitment goes all the way to 2029.
That's providing the fuel for those startups to grow and for bigger companies to integrate AI into what they're doing. And on top of all that, we have U.S. and Canadian funds, and even big French companies like Iliad Group, Thales, Orange, all throwing their hats in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone seems to be seeing the strategic and economic importance of AI. Now, one thing that really stands out about France in this global race is its access to a pretty stable and relatively low-carbon energy source.
That's a really good point. France has this advantage, and it's a big one when it comes to powering those increasingly power-hungry AI operations. They've got this nuclear energy infrastructure, and they're not afraid to use it. They're dedicating a whole gigawatt of nuclear power to fuel AI training and those ongoing operations, and that's happening by 2026.
Now, you've got to explain this a little for me. A gigawatt. That sounds like a lot. And this nuclear power, are they really leaning into it for AI?
They are. You see, with 57 nuclear reactors already producing over two-thirds of France's electricity, they've got this built-in advantage. It's cheap. It's much cleaner than using fossil fuels.
Right, right. It's a big selling point for companies wanting to set up those big AI computing facilities. So now let's talk about the institutions, the research hubs, the brains behind all this AI innovation in France.
Well, the French research ecosystem is thriving, and a lot of that is thanks to those strategic investments we talked about. The CNRS, the French National Center for Scientific Research, they've been key players in all of this.
And they were the ones who set up those interdisciplinary institutes for artificial intelligence, the 3IAs.
Exactly. 4 were established in 2019, and now there are 9 of them across France. They have a combined budget of 350 million euro.
So what's their main focus? What are they trying to achieve?
They're all about cutting-edge research, both in the fundamental principles of AI and how AI can be applied in a whole range of fields. I mean, we're talking healthcare, transportation, energy, environmental science, everything really. They're also training the next generation of AI specialists.
The researchers and engineers of tomorrow.
Exactly, and they're making sure that the knowledge, the technology being developed in the lab, that it actually makes its way out into the real world, into industrial applications, into startups. They're playing a big part in that transfer of knowledge.
And the CNRS itself is also giving researchers a lot of support, isn't it? In other ways, beyond just funding.
Oh yeah, they run the Zhanze supercomputer, making all that computing power available to researchers across the country. Plus, they've got this network of PNRIA engineers who are there to provide technical support to those researchers. And this is important. The CNRS has implemented these really competitive salary scales to attract and keep those top AI minds in France.
Trying to prevent them from being lured away by Silicon Valley or other countries offering big money. Now, beyond the CNRS and the three IAs, what other research institutions are playing a big part in France's AI success?
Well, the Paris Artificial Intelligence Research Institute, PRAIRIES, is another one. It was created in 2018 and is really focused on fundamental AI research with a strong emphasis on its practical applications. They're particularly strong in healthcare and education, and they're also really good at facilitating that transfer of AI innovations into the real world. They work closely with companies and startups.
So that bridge between the lab and the marketplace, that's something they're actively working on. We can't forget about the universities, right? I mean, they're playing a huge role in all of this as well.
Of course. Take Université Paris-Saclay, for example. Their Data Institute just received 1.8 million euro for their Udopia doctoral program. That's funding 30 PhD grants. And then you've got the National Research Agency, the NRA, funding 10 research chairs at Université Paris-Saclay as part of a 22 million euro program. And a lot of these chairs have these close partnerships with industry, really strengthening that connection between the academic world and the real world needs of businesses.
And we should probably talk a bit more about UNISA, the National Institute for AI Evaluation and Security. It's been mentioned, but it really does seem like a key part of France's approach to AI development.
It is. It was launched in January 2025, and it has those three key roles that we talked about earlier. They're analyzing the potential risks to national security that AI might bring about. They're helping to implement AI regulations and ensuring that things are done responsibly. And they're doing those rigorous evaluations of AI models to make sure they're safe and reliable.
So it's not just about pushing the boundaries of AI. It's about doing it in a safe, a responsible, and ethical way.
Exactly. And the fact that Anisha is part of this global network of safety institutes that really highlights how committed France is to making AI trustworthy, beneficial, something that benefits society as a whole.
So we've looked at the research, the institutions, the investments. But now let's see how all this is being put into practice. How is AI actually changing different sectors of the French economy?
Well, by 2025, AI has really made its way into almost every sector in France. Although the pace of adoption, how they're using it, that really varies from industry to industry. Let's start with healthcare, where AI has the potential to really make a difference.
Yeah, and the University 365 report points out several initiatives that are pushing AI adoption in French healthcare. The Health Data Hub is one that really stands out.
Oh yeah, the Health Data Hub is really important. It's this national platform that allows researchers and developers to access huge amounts of healthcare data, but it's all anonymized and the access is secure, respecting people's privacy. And this lets them develop and train AI algorithms for a whole range of applications. Think about improving diagnoses, finding new drugs faster, developing those personalized treatment protocols, all while protecting patient data.
And there's also this focus on regulating and even reimbursing AI-powered medical devices within the French healthcare system.
Yeah, they're evaluating these digital medical devices, DMDs. They're put through these rigorous tests, and the ones that show a real clinical value and are proven to be safe, they can actually be recommended for reimbursement by the AS, the French National Authority for Health.
So there's a clear path for these AI-powered medical tools to actually reach patients.
Exactly. And they're using this tool, the eSotus tool, which collects feedback from patients to find areas where the quality of care could be improved.
Okay.
AI can play a big part in analyzing that feedback, finding patterns, and coming up with recommendations.
So let's move on to finance, another sector that's going through a lot of change, a lot of disruption because of AI. What's the AI picture in French finance?
The financial sector in France has really embraced AI, but they're doing it within a very specific regulatory framework set up by bodies like the ACPR and the AMF. We're seeing bank using AI to assess loan applications, to spot fraud, and do it more efficiently and accurately.
And AI is really good at handling all that data that exists in the financial world, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Natural language processing, it's being used to analyze company documents, financial reports, news articles, you name it. Even the Banque de France, the central bank, is using neural networks to look at the default probabilities of non-financial companies.
So AI is being woven into the very fabric of how France's financial system operates. Now, what about the industrial side of things? Manufacturing, for example. How is AI changing that sector in France?
Manufacturing in France has a pretty high adoption rate of AI, around 50%, which shows just how much it's being integrated into those production processes. We're seeing it used for things like predictive maintenance, using sensors and AI to predict when a machine might break down, and this is actually helping to reduce downtime in factories by between 10% and 20%.
That's huge.
It is. It saves money, it makes things more efficient. And then there are AI-powered systems for quality control, spotting those defects in products with greater accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
And they're using AI to optimize processes, reducing waste, streamlining things, and of course, we can't forget about AI-powered robots.
Right. Taking over those repetitive tasks, the dangerous ones, the ones that require a very precise touch.
Exactly.
And finally, let's talk about agriculture. The report says that this sector actually leads the pack when it comes to AI adoption in France.
That's right. About 58% of the agricultural sector is using AI in some form. And this higher adoption rate, I think it comes down to the very tangible benefits AI can bring to farming. Things like using fewer resources, getting better yields.
So it's not just about technology for technology's sake, it's about solving real problems.
Exactly. They're using AI for precision farming, using sensors and drones to figure out exactly where to put water, fertilizers, and pesticides, only where they're needed. They're using AI to monitor crops, using satellite imagery and AI to get real-time information on plant health, growth, diseases.
Wow.
And then there are the yield prediction algorithms, helping farmers to make better decisions about when to plant, when to harvest, and how to store their crops. AI is even making its way into soil management and pest control. It's really helping to make agriculture more sustainable and efficient.
It's amazing to see how AI is being applied across so many different industries in France. So now what about the bigger picture? What's the impact of all of this on French society and the economy as a whole?
Well, AI is having a big impact, that's for sure. Economic projections suggest that AI could boost France's annual GDP growth by something like zero point 0.8 to 1.3 percentage points every year until 2034.
That's a significant boost.
It is, and the AI market in France itself, it's expected to hit almost US $24 billion by 2030. That shows you how important it's becoming. And it's not just about future projections. Companies using AI right now, they're already seeing the benefits. 72% of employers who used AI say it's having a positive impact on their business.
And what are some of those benefits they're seeing?
Well, the big one is a reduction in all those repetitive, those time-consuming tasks. AI is taking those over, which frees up people to focus on things that require more creativity, more strategic thinking. They're also seeing a big drop in errors. AI is just better at certain tasks, and that means better quality and more efficiency.
Yeah. Now, of course, there was a lot of worry early on that AI would take away jobs and that would lead to mass unemployment. What does the report have to say about that?
Interestingly, recent studies show that only about 5% of current jobs in France could potentially be replaced by AI, at least with the technology we have today.
Okay. Expert speaker.